This is your first day. Your designation will be RP-01/138. We expect great things from you. You have been born into dangerous times. A sharp mind can be the key to survival. But as often as not, it will be your inherent physical traits that win the day. And in this regard, you will be superior to your more common brethren. For you are a commando, an elite unit, something truly special. Your weapons, your armor, and most importantly, your brothers.
All right, men. Listen up.
Delta Squad, form up.
Forming up, boss.
What is up, my fellow Republic Commandos and our Sith sympathizers? It is your boy Trey of the Bat Channel, and we are live once again from a galaxy far, far away, talking about the latest 3 episodes of Andor. And I think we're going to have a pretty interesting show for you guys today, because if you saw our watch party reaction, it was very animated, I feel like. Not authentic, but I think it caught us off guard. I don't think we expected certain things to happen with certain characters and for that to be the end of their arcs, or how just the Gorman massacre went down. I'm excited to talk to you guys about it, because since then, I have some new thoughts on it. I'll just put it there. I think we're going to have a great discussion for you guys. So, without further ado, let's go through all the little pleasantries before we begin. Let's talk about following us on our social media pages like TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. We do a lot of cool TBC news posts about all the entertainment news. Some huge things came out about the Monsterverse with Godzilla and Kong and Godzilla -1. So make sure you guys follow us at _Bat Channel. If you're still over on Facebook, at Holy Bat Channel, because someone beat us to it. So follow us there. And of course, it helps us out so much when you guys smash that like, you share this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. We're trying to get to 10,000 subs, because if we get to 10,000 subs, Super Bro Corey and I love to do some charity streams where we help raise money for important foundations like American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, Feeding America, American Red Cross Disaster Relief Fund that they did for Twisters. Rather than YouTube taking 30% out of your super chat and Super Bro Corey and I covering the cost, when we hit 10,000, we'll just be able to make sure it directly goes to it without having to wait for, all the funds to get in, so we can put in all your guys' donations, which we appreciate. You guys have been so generous. What's up, Richard? Good to see you from the Peak District, UK, my man. Welcome to the UK. What time is it in the UK? I'm curious. It must be evening time. Yeah. But it's so wonderful to see you guys all here. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you don't miss an episode. Also, some great episodes previously, whether it's our breakdown of Andor, our review of Jurassic World Chaos Theory, excited for Jurassic World Rebirth, especially with some of the things that have been released, our Accountant 2 review, Godzilla, all the stuff that Toho is investing in. Of course, Predator Badlands, which has been so freaking awesome. I keep rewatching that trailer and just loving it, man. 5:30. Okay, so I was about right. It was a little afternoon. Yeah, so make sure you guys check out Orc and Beans. How's it going, buddy? I'm sure you would sure you were happy with the last 3 episodes that we'll discuss with here. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring out the best of the best. The panel, the Delta Squad, form up, ladies and gentlemen. Super Bro Corey and Cove J. How's it going, gents? How you guys doing?
Doing good. What's up, everybody? What's up, Battalion?
Yeah. All right, guys. First off, let's do this. I just want to get your guys' take on, after we had our watch party, our reaction, what was kind of your general thoughts now that you kind of let it rest a little bit about Andor's episodes 7 through 9? We'll start with Koj and then Super Bro.
With each episode,
or maybe just the general consensus of all 3, like as an arc, like a 3 episode package.
I think, well, as an arc, I think it ended well, but how it got there, I felt like there were elements of brilliance. It was a little lackluster, and there was a waste of time. So it's that kind of combo for me. It's like 1/3 a great experience. Yeah, I don't know if I'm being harsh, but maybe during today's discussion, I don't know, maybe I'll see differently. But I feel they could have gone harder.
That's an interesting point. We can definitely talk about that in a bit. Out of curiosity, since you've let it sit for the last few days, has your feelings changed towards it, or are you going down even harder? Like, nah, how I reacted to it is how I feel.
Pretty much how I reacted to it is how I feel. If I see it again, I'd probably like it more because it's so beautiful.
Okay.
But story-wise, I'm still kind of I feel like it's not it's not as powerful as a progression as I felt season 1 was, and even just for the topics that we're going for, I felt like they were being a little too safe and cautionary on certain themes, and with Cyril and Daedra having absolutely no point whatsoever other than showing how stressful and hard it is to work in the military of the Empire. That's why I got their whole point was.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't know. Ugh.
It's a fascinating point. I'm glad you brought it up, because we'll hold on to it. Super Bro Corey, of course, as I toss things,
this episode.
Has your thoughts changed at all about Andor episode 7 through 9?
Nah, not really. But we'll get deeper into that here shortly.
Okay.
Let's get in there, Trey.
We're just gonna dive right into it, huh? All right. Well, let's first off, before we dive fully into it, Corey, can we say hello to everyone that's in the chat? I see a ton of people. How's everyone doing?
Absolutely, buddy. We have a lot of people in the chat today. We have Joker's Wild, Red Robin, Bat Fanatic, Dean Classified, Monarch, Eyes Only, hashtag Restore the Snyderverse guy. Excuse me, Atomic Kaiju 1954, Akio Lee, Pred Alien, Oracle's Clock Tower, Beyond the Night, Red Hooded Outlaw, The Butler, Carrie Kelly, The Batman Who Laughs, Kaiju, Crazy, Craig Brolin, Good Soldiers follows, Oda 66, Dark Jurassic, Wayne Enterprises, King Donkey Kong, Darth Star Killer, Clever Girl 86, Trevor H, Beyond the Night, I think we said Carrie Kelly, Oracle's Clock Tower, we have Bat Dance, Thoughts in the building, we have Orkin Beans, we have Richard James. What's up, Richard James? I think this is fairly new for him to join. We got Ryan Swayze in the house, Star Killer Unleashed, and let's see, Light Blinded Fool. Can you explain why Deidre and Surreal's arcs were pointless? Isn't it important to show how Imperial brainwashing works? We will get into that.
We're definitely going to get into it. In fact, it's going to be a major talking point that we get into. And maybe, I'm guessing you probably saw our reaction, which is why you're saying that we think it's pointless. Maybe it's changed. Maybe. I'll leave that hint. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into part 3 of season 2 of Andor. It's great to see everyone here. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, as always. I think we always got to address first who it was written by, who the directors were, because they clearly have each their arc. You know, Tony Gilroy kicked it off, but now we got his brother, Dan Gilroy, who did the screenplay for Real Steel, Born Legacy, and even Kong Skull Island. So for my fellow Monsterverse lovers like myself, kind of cool stuff that he's involved with this particular set of episodes as for the screenplay. But the director is a Danish director named Janus Metz, who hasn't done a ton. His biggest thing is a film called Armadillo and All the Old Knives. He's done a lot of series, but he's still kind of an up-and-coming director too. So it's been really cool. It seems like Tony Gilroy has really provided some opportunities for some up-and-coming directors to have their shot. And I think if there's one thing to be said about the entire Andor show, the cinematography has been spectacular. And Koji, I know you probably could even speak on that more, being someone who is a director. And in that, what do you think, out of curiosity, has been some of the success of the technical side of the cinematography for Andor?
I think the successful side for that is how well they focus on the characters and the CGI background. Because with cinematography, it's really beautiful when you can capture something. Because you know, I look at cinematography as like either dynamic comic book panels mixed with photography when it comes to film. So when you implement CGI, a green screen, or that big dome everyone shoots things in, shooting something where you don't have the complete depth of field of the background is a little challenge. Something that, you know, one of our favorite directors, Zack Snyder, does very well. So I feel they accomplished that in this show, because my criticisms of the sequel trilogy is some scenes look like they're on small sets. Case in point, Force Awakens, at the end, when they're all celebrating, it looks like it's shot in a very small high school gym type of size, whereas in A New Hope, there's this long hallway walking up to get their medals from Princess Leia. There's no dynamic depths. However, Andor accomplishes that in wide scale, planet scale, city shots, intimate shots, being close with the characters down long hallways. It's like you see how big and vast this world is with the creative side of world building and the CGI background lot. And at the same time, they can go intimate, close to characters, actors' expressions for the characters, and they don't miss a beat there. The color palette's beautiful. I like it. It's a little gritty, as in it's not so bright and saturated, but there's enough color to catch your eye in different places to set the mood. The lighting with the background to it creates some more of that real sense. So that's where I say it's so beautiful. On top of the costumes done by I'm forgetting his name, but he worked on Snyder Cut, of course. That's the part that I feel is missing. That's the part that brings it cinematically, where it doesn't look like it's a show on TV or a Power Ranger episode or something from Vampire Diaries, where it's just TV shot style. And that's where this movie is the series is captivating for me with their cinematography. They use it very well, like it's shot in a real place, and that's something you want to accomplish to bring realism to any story that's fantasy or sci-fi. So they're really killing it there.
I think it's a great point that you brought that up with talking about like the realism of the show, because I think as fantastical as Star Wars and the galaxy, this universe, this IP is, this show is trying to make a very grounded, realistic approach with it, which is why I think in season 1 we sometimes said this doesn't always feel like Star Wars, but it's really good quality. So we kind of let it slide on some of those moments where maybe it didn't quite feel of that universe. Now, I think what will kind of help us in terms of breaking down each episode, and we're going to really just talk about the main topic points of each episode. But before we talk about episode 7, I kind of want to give us a quick summary, and I know this might not be entirely quick, but a quick summary of the story so far with season 2. And I think we need to do that because you might see where I'm going with it and what I'm trying to set up with maybe some of the arguments or the, playing devil's advocate with you guys based on our reaction from the watch party on Tuesday.
Okay.
So we know the story so far. Krennic, who is the commander who's heading up the Project Stardust of the Death Star that we saw in episode 1. He discussed with all the Imperial officers the challenge with Calcite that they're trying to extract in major quantities from Gorman that is going to ruin the planet, essentially, right? They're going to take up that natural resource. They do say in that they're looking for another solution, but if it doesn't work out, this is the route we're going to have to go. We're going to have to wipe out Gorman, cause some problems through their internal structure to basically provide them some level of innocence in the matter, so that they can keep themselves relatively clean in the eyes of the Senate. And the reason of this is Palpatine's grip on the galaxy. It's not solidified yet. He can't just lay waste to an entire world and its people without any type of backlash at this moment, which is why he really wants the Death Star. So that's why they're keeping it as secretive as possible. No one in that room can really let any of that information out. We know Deidre was in there, and the whole point of it, right, is to have a power that no one can contest the Empire. It's going to be the war crimes that he commits that no one's going to be able to step up to him, basically. So Krennic's solution is to turn it into a public sentiment against Gorman, really do a whole bunch of propaganda with the governments and basically showing the people of Coruscant how it's Gorman's fault, right? Rather than the Empire's, that they were thrown into this situation and there's nothing they could do to avoid it. And it's Gorman that are the instigators, the attackers, rather than the Empire going in there and abusing and pressing them and taking their resources. And he's basically going to use Deidre to create the social manipulation. And I find it interesting that, like, we kind of saw in that first episode, Deidre was kind of reserved about, like, she didn't want the job because of what happened on Ferrix, and she wanted to continue to go after Axis, which is Luthen's character. But she also knew where this was going to go. She's seen it happen before. She knew propaganda, manipulation was only going to go so far, and at some point they were going to have to lay waste to the people so that they get the resources they need for the lenses on the Death Star. Well, as we know, she has a perfect cover-up story to kind of get in there and to create the manipulation they need to create the rebels, the insurgency that is going to try to create the problems that they need. She knows you need to kind of manifest a natural aggression towards the Empire, right? It can't just be paying a couple of people that are basically double agents in that insurgency to just make it happen, right? Like, you need them to believe that there's an actual cause going on their planet. Her perfect in was her love interest, I guess you could say, Surreal, who was with the ISB, believes in law and order. That's been his whole theme throughout his character. He wants law and order, and he thinks what the Empire is doing is good. And because of his failures on Ferrix and being fired from the ISB, he seems like the perfect candidate. We kind of talked about this out at Watch Party. He seems like the perfect candidate from a insurgency side, the people of Gorman, that he looks like he's the person that can be turned to help them, even though he's still with the Empire and with Deidre. So, with that being said, we see all the things, we get the time jumps, we see what they're doing with Gorman, with the news, and we get to this place of episode 7. So, now that we kind of set the stage a little bit, let's talk about episode 7, Messenger, which takes place, we get the gong again from Ferrix, which I see a question. Light Blinded Fool says, question, if there was an alternative, would Palpatine go forward with a plan anyway to start the fear campaign? I personally think there was never truly a plan for an alternative. I think Palpatine doesn't care about the losses. He could care how many people die, how many soldiers, how many senators die. It just, he understands that at this moment he can't reveal himself. He's a very patient man. We saw him for pretty much 20 years being a senator and eventually the High Chancellor of the Republic, that he is willing to wait for the opportune moment, put in the pieces where it needs to be. And I think he simply just told Krennic, or even Krennic could have come up with it himself, to basically be, hey, we are searching for an alternative here because we understand this is not a very kosher thing. It's not gonna go well. We're gonna have to go to lengths that are really ugly and bad. However, if we have no other option, this is what it's gonna take, and we're gonna do it. The amount of money they were spending to make sure everything was in place for this moment, I truly think they weren't considering any other option. To them, this was the easy solution, you know? So I think it was a lie that there was any alternative. So take that. I mean, if you're saying, if you had to solidify and say there was an alternative option, I think he still would have done it. I think the Emperor, how do you guys feel about that question? That's kind of an interesting one from Light Blinded Fool. Koj, your thoughts?
It's weird because if there was an alternative, would Palpatine go forward with the plan anyway to start a fear campaign? I don't know if they would do alternatives, because they're Sith and they're very absolute. They're very direct in trying to get their job done. Like, I think whatever's the quickest option would be the option that Palpatine would go for. Because we look at the lengths of, like, the Death Star. Like, okay, we just destroy the whole planet in like a few seconds. Everyone's gone. Witnesses, anyone can test. People just find out, hey, it's not there anymore, and then we let them know exactly what happens if we say so or not. So, I think he's the type that wants to hit hard with massive results and cause instant mass fear right away, not build it up slowly.
Yeah.
I think he'll let his minions do that.
I agree. And throughout this, he's been able to relatively keep himself excluded from a lot of what the Empire is. I mean, he's so far we haven't even seen him really much in anything. When you think about Star Wars Rebels and Andor season 1, season 2, all the shows that have happened that provided us some form of content during this time, the Emperor has still been very isolated from the Senate. So he's
I like that.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. He doesn't really have to answer to anyone, and I don't think if he did show up, people wouldn't want him to answer to you, because I don't think that conversation is going to go well. I don't think he's that person that feels like he needs to justify anything. He's a one-man band at this point, and everyone's just a pawn on his chessboard. So
it's
great.
Kind of like,
great. Sorry,
like if you look at old systems, like I know in the East and maybe even like with the Pope, like you have the mean guy in the center of their system. Like they'll have a castle or a palace, and then they have a wall around that, and then they have another castles and palace around that, and then another wall and another wall. So it's like you can barely even see the dude. They're so far away. Socially, they could do that too, where you don't even see them. You just feel the smallest part of their pyramid, and that's devastating enough. That's a good way to flex power, and that's how I feel Palpatine kind of flexes his hand. So I like that we barely see him, you know?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Super Bro, your thoughts on light blinded fools question?
Yeah, like what was what was Palpatine's plan and purpose from the get-go? And it was to rule the galaxy, right? To create this new Sith empire, with himself being that one true supreme ruler. So ultimately, I think that whether it was this or something else, this was always the one plan to, make people bow down to the Sith Empire and crush any opposition along the way. So,
yeah. So we know that Episode 7 starts 2 years before the Battle of Yavin. And we can kind of see they start us off at Yavin, and we can see that Mon Mothma's secret funds are starting to be used. They're really getting the funding that they need to get the equipment, the machinery, the artillery that they will use to have a fighting chance against the Empire. I was a little taken back by that, like in terms of arguments against the show, where I feel like the focus is in the wrong areas. To me, in the history of the Gorman Massacre, which we know they're leading us up to with Episode 8, that idea is supposed to be very much that when the Gorman Massacre happens and Mon Mothma gives her speech, that is supposed to be the defining moment that really solidifies the rebellion and all the different factions that were originally in that. With Saw Gerrera and the other groups that we saw in the beginning of the first episode of season 2. However, seeing them so organized right there kind of doesn't give you the sense that, I mean, yes, I'm sure it rallied more people to their cause. I just felt like maybe it wasn't the best time to show that particular shot, of the grand organization. Yes, they have all the resources now. But to me, it takes away a little bit of the impact of what is about to happen with Mon Mothma. We do see that Cassian and Bix are hiding out on Yavin on a nice little cozy cottage. And apparently he sustained an arm injury from there. And you could tell there's still Cassian's and Luthen's relationship are still very strained at the moment because of the whole situation where Luthen sees Gorman as an acceptable loss to their cause, to rally people against the Empire. It's a very similar situation that we saw with Pearl Harbor, right? With FDR, knowing about the incoming attack from the Japanese. So it does create a lot of realism in the sense of why Cassian is he would rather avoid the situation or stop the situation from even happening. But in the long run, it's like Luthen's playing the long game, and he knows that there's going to be acceptable losses, as he has said in season 1, that he has to utilize the tactics that the Empire does for his own cause. So it makes him a very complicated gray character, which is awesome. As we see on Gorman, there's a lot of news coverage about the terrorist insurgent attacks. We learned about a few that have happened already in the last few days. There's been a curfew that has been issued, security increased, tensions are rising. We can even tell Surreal's a bit on edge because this is his squadron. These are the people that he has to look after and that he has become directly involved with. Dedra and Major Partagaz, they basically tell us what we knew was going to happen. There's no alternative situation. They're going to have to extract the Kelkite mineral that they need, and that the Empire is going to proceed with overtaking the planet. This puts Surreal in a very interesting position where I felt like, I don't know, to me, it seems like Surreal had to get a bit of an idea, but I guess it would just suggest that he was very much, as Light Blinded Fool said earlier, brainwashed into believing without a doubt, without questioning, what Dedra or the Empire was asking him to do on Gorman. What did you guys think of that particular conversation between Surreal and Dedra, where he's like, "You're keeping me out of the loop. What? Like, I'm hearing these rumors. What is going on here? Like, why is it coming to this place where, like, you've had me involved with all these people? I've been doing what you guys asked me, and now you're taking me out of it." What's your kind of thoughts on what's going on through Dedra's mind? Like, do you think for something that happens later on in episode 8, when the massacre happens, she seems to have a bit of a panic attack? We learn it wasn't the force choking like we all thought from the trailer reaction.
Oh man!
But it was simply just a panic attack. Do you think she kind of tells him, like, "Hey, get out of here. Like, you did your job. It's time to go. You know, like, you served your purpose here." Do you think she actually has feelings for him, or was Dedra just using him? He's the perfect cover-up.
Oh, me. All right. I feel Dedra could have been a stronger character. I feel like we haven't spent time in her psyche. We just saw the results of whatever she's feeling inside. I have a feeling it's a combination of both. I feel like she's a business-driven person from the get-go. I feel that she holds on to Cyril because of that first meltdown she had in season 1 towards the end. Because I think with all her strength that she was flexing and her sternness and lack of emotion during that mob scene, which was probably something she never experienced from what I gather from her reaction back then, she realized how weak she is to her standards. Well, she's ignoring that she's actually just another human being, you know, because if you're part of the Empire, you're oppressing people, you're hurting people. That's not natural human instinct. Our human instinct is community, survival, hunting, you know, working together. That's what I believe. So whenever that is challenged in any characters who have some level, even a small percent of moral conscience, is going to come out. So I think her panic attack reflected to her that she's weak, and Cyril, when he came in, he kind of was the protection for her to get back to her focus. I think her obsession with Cyril isn't out of love. I think she admires Cyril because he is the anchor to keep herself in check. So if he shows up at another insane situation like the massacre that's coming up, I feel she knows that, oh, I'm losing control again. I don't have control anymore. I think she loves Cyril, but she loves him for the control that he gives her. So if he, like, helps that little gap, as Adrian and Rocky say, hey, we fill gaps, right? Her insecurity gap, he fills that. And if she can control him, in her mind, she's like, okay, I controlled my fear, my flaw, because this guy's in my life. I think he's always been like, she has love, but it's selfishly and it's insecurely for her, what she's lacking. And if she has him in his life, maybe she feels like she can control it. That is like, that's an escape tactic, and it falls in her face towards the end. So that's something that they did right. I just wish we knew a little bit more of her psyche. We just saw just that. So I think she loves him, but not for the right reasons. I think it's just for her own insecurities to keep in check.
We're kind of like at that point, like the one person he can control in a way. and
Mhm.
and know what he's gonna do because she asks him to do it. Or
Like he
orders him
could
to
have
do
been the one to love her and have a
Mm.
healthy relationship, but she kind of, palpatined him in a way for her own control.
it.
She had to
And
love
I-
him a little bit, though, right?
Of course,
Because
there
she
is a
had
little
to-
bit of love there. I just think
had
she
to
goes
deal
about
with
it.
Surreal's mom for that long period of time.
Yeah.
So she had to love him a little bit, right?
Oh, of course.
Not quite a total recall moment with Sharon Stone being like you're my best assignment yet. Corey,
I think
your thoughts on that?
I just think she loved the control aspect of him. She loved that he was kind of her puppy, in some ways. Like, he did whatever she wanted him to do, and basically blindly went along with what she wanted to do. So I think he definitely loved her, but she didn't truly love him. But yeah,
It's fair.
yeah.
I think especially as we go through the next episode in particular, we definitely get to see in a weird way. Well, I'll wait to talk about it, because I know one of the big themes I said throughout season 1 was like, I'm waiting for this dude to crack, to explode, to have this moment where he becomes this like force of nature for the Empire and just like goes after Andor because he just can't take it anymore. Like he's just tired of failure and tired of being controlled, and finally being in control himself. But we'll get to that. But of course, we know that Mon Mothma is on Coruscant, and they're hearing about all the rising tensions to Gorman, even Senator Dasi Oren. He's really stressing that this is getting to a bad place, and he's clinging on to any help that he can get. And Mon Mothma, they're both kind of like, we're at this place where there's nothing more we really can do. We're going through all the legalizations that are trying to go through the proper channels and the government on how to help Gorman, but it's going to be too late. Really, everything is ramping up really quickly. And I even love the quote that Senator Dasi Oren has said, because I feel like it hits home a little bit. But they don't even bother to lie badly anymore. It's their final humiliation. It's a very true statement, even in today's standards, right? But and I think something we all kind of, when we heard, kind of went, wow, like, yeah, that's something we all can kind of relate to in terms of what we see in our own society, which is why I really look at Andor as being this really complex, realistic approach to Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars has always had
the Star Trek of Star Wars.
That's a great point. Well, as much as people are going to, hate us, and Star Wars fans are going to go nuts, that is a lot of truth to that. Yeah, we're just sci-fi fantasy people, but there's a lot of truth to that. This is kind of the Star Trek show. You are seeing the very political aspect. It's always been there in Star Wars. We see the rise of Chancellor Palpatine to Emperor. We see in some of the future Star Wars shows like Mandalorian how they've been able to keep their power. And with Star Wars Rebels, some of the themes they were able to do. Star Wars Clone Wars had quite a few episodes of politics and what the Republic had to do during these war times that were shady. So it has been a very grounded approach that has been able for us to kind of look at ourselves a little bit and see our similar breakout of situations happen.
If I may add into that, I think that's the appealing part of Andor, because that's its main kind of vibe and focus, and that's kind of what George Lucas was about. Every time he talks about the depth of stuff, he goes into either the spiritual or the political side of it. And especially with the sit-down talk with him and James Cameron.
Yeah.
Oh, I always rewatch that conversation. It's so deep and it's very powerful. So he's cool thing about Star Wars and a galaxy, he could tack on so many things that happened in our history, like, and even current events. But with Andor, I see more of like a French Revolution reflection vibe in the sense that
Yes.
even as this goes on, Cassian, he kind of reminds me now of a male version of Joan of Arc without the faith, because Joan of Arc was also representing the Catholic Church, and she was burnt at the stakes. That was her end. What happens to Cassian? He's burnt on a planet because of that explosion. And Joan of Arc was she was a pivotal symbol for the French resistance and leadership and nationality and courage, faith, and all that. I think Andor, he's just missing the faith part with the Force, but her actions helped that whole rebellion and revolution. So I feel that that's his kind of quest as well. And just with the characters, with the language, even when the actors were saying, oh, this fictional language sounds a lot French like. So I think the motif is there, and that's what a lot of us Star Wars fans are missing, because I feel Disney, like my criticism, I'll go in different details about it as it goes on, but they don't go as hard in the political stuff. Like they kind of gravitate to what they're used to, because this is the fairy tale princess company, and that's a great important message too. But for Star Wars, we need more than that, and I don't think they're experienced or willing to go there, because it's safe to tell stories of family bonding, which is very important. It's safe to tell stories of individual following your dreams, very important too. And it's important for love romance stories. But as important as those are, when it comes to stuff that can go harder and more tragic and deeper and inspiring with political stuff and even spiritual stuff, I feel they shy away, and what they can't do, they fill in the gaps with more drama, more soap opera stuff, more believe yourself, follow your dreams, and maybe relationship stuff, because I see that in every kind of Disney thing. They push a little bit more if it's not comedy driven,
Yeah, no, I think you bring up some very great points, especially, and I do agree that if they would have gone harder into it, I think it would have helped the overall execution of some of the things that Tony Gilroy and in this case Dan Gilroy were really trying to push in the story arc of these latest few episodes. Like at this point, I think everyone is aware that Andor isn't a kid's show, isn't a teenager show. It's a very adult Star Wars. So therefore, I don't think you need to hold back anymore. I don't think you need to try to maintain an illusion that Star Wars is for kids. I mean, Rogue One already kind of opened the door to the complexities of the rebellion with the first scene with Cassian killing an innocent person to keep his cover. I mean, that was a moment, and Gareth Edwards, I love that. He holds that shot after Cassian shoots that guy and zooms in a tiny bit on Cassian to show, like he just did that. The rebellion had to do some shady, hard stuff to keep the fight going against such a powerful enemy. And you kind of look at it and you go, well, does that ruin the discussion of good versus evil? No, I think the Jedi, I think if you get back to, because you've heard us make this argument, is that the Jedi are good, Sith are evil. And I still do believe that.
Oh yeah.
Compared to what Acolyte was trying to say with their storytelling. And I think George Lucas would reconfirm that. Well, he has in his interviews. But I think humans, the people, not just humans, but obviously the species, but the regular people that are in this political world of Star Wars, this makes sense. This makes sense that they're going to have to make some pretty tough, probably morally gray decisions that we're going to feel two ways about it, who is the real bad guy? I don't know if I would still say that. I wouldn't say that the Empire is good by any means and that they created a world of order, but I think it's an interesting conversation that Andor and Rogue One have presented a little bit.
I think that's probably what is the most disappointing part of Andor, because since Andor is the Star Trek of Star Wars, the only thing is that it definitely came nowhere close to the points and the topics and the difficult issues that Star Trek really explores. So they it was like Star Trek light. And again, on Disney, they just didn't go deep enough into some of those impactful moments and everything like that.
Interesting, yeah. We do get this kind of nice little moment that I think, just knowing the journey of Rogue One, if you didn't see Rogue One, I think this scene would have had a lesser impact. But the scene with the Force Healer, where she senses Cassian nearby, he thinks it's all just a ploy, like she's just this, gimmick, the person with the cards, reading your future kind of thing. But she senses him and gets the idea that this journey that he's been on has all the gathering of experiences are leading him up to deliver a certain message, a place he needs to be at some point. And I think what they're really getting at there is what happens with Rogue One, how the incredible sacrifice that his team with Jey Uso, did I say Jyn Erso, my Jey Uso, my God, is basically leading to that moment where they sacrifice themselves to make sure that the rebels had the fighting chance they need to take out the Death Star, the most powerful weapon we've ever seen in the Star Wars universe at that time. So his message that he will deliver is a message of hope, and that is really, when you think about the Rebellion and Andor and Rogue One, the messaging has really been that idea of hope with the Rebellion and how rebellions are built on hope. They keep hinting and bringing that topic up for sure. And that's really kind of the main things that happen in episode 7. But with episode 8, Who Are You? This is when stuff really goes crazy. It's action-packed, tense, just an all-out brutality, basically. But we get the Imperial manipulation that causes Gorman's frustration and the protest that gets out of hand with Cassian and Cyril at the forefront. The protest, like Koj just said earlier, is very French Revolution. Even some of the shots kind of look like some of the paintings that we've seen from the French Revolution. We get the song that they do with the "We Are the Gore, the Galaxy is Watching," and we do.
Oh, by the way,
sorry, go ahead.
Can I mention something? Art, I don't know if you're going to switch this panel, but throughout Andor, they always have a circle theme somewhere in the background, and that or dome. I don't know if you can make that bigger, but yeah. So you have that circle in his apartment, and then you have that dome on the bottom left. They always have those kind of shapes in Andor, and every now and then. And I don't know if they're doing it on purpose, but artistically, that gives me a vibe of the Death Star coming, or on its way.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
An impending thing. That's just something I want to throw out there. That looks nice. Before you switch.
No, that's a good point. Corey, go ahead and go to the next slide. So with episode 8.
I think he's
Oh yeah, sorry, he had to go real quick.
There we go.
So with episode 8, like we said, a lot of the tense moments, a lot of things are blowing up. Everything that has been building for the last 2 seasons, this is the moment, right, that we've been waiting for, that we've kind of hinted at in a lot of our breakdowns. That get ready, the Gorman Massacre is coming up. This French Revolution setting that they're doing with the protests, it starts off very peaceful, right? And we get a moment with Cyril and Rylance, who is kind of the head of the insurgency rebellion, or the terrorists, depending on which perspective you're looking at it. If it's the Imperials. He sees Cyril walking down the streets during this protest because he's pissed. He's going to go confront Deidre for all the BS that she's put him through. But Rylance is basically calling him out, saying, dude, do you have any idea what you've been a part of? You don't believe the rumors. He kind of helps him understand that he has been a pawn this entire time, that Dedra has really been using him, and that he's turned a blind eye. I think that's the important thing that I really tried to look at it through Cyril's perspective this last round. As you know, Cyril wasn't my favorite character in season 1. He's been one of my least favorite characters in season 2. But when I rewatched these episodes 7, 8, 9, a second time and wanted to look at it through a different perspective, I started to realize something with Surreal. Surreal was I should have never put my expectations of what should happen with his story arc, because I think what they were so if you remember in season 1, I kept saying this character, like, I don't understand where they're going with him. He really hasn't had an arc, a purpose of being there, other than he's a witness that was affected by the situation on Ferrix. And he just creates a weird vibe with his mom and with Dedra that was just like, I just don't know where they're going with him. And they kind of continued that in the beginning of season 2. And it kind of hit me that for how realistic this show is, how grounded it is, I think there was a point for him being ordinary. Someone who could, like, you could pick him out in our ordinary day life. He's someone that could be us, you know, living, he's just going every day to work. Things happen. He's a victim of it, and a victim of the media, a victim of the propaganda and the life and the ideas that he believes the Empire represented when he wasn't directly involved with them. And now that he is directly involved with them, he starts to see the truth. And it's a hard truth, right? Something that I think he truly thought he was doing good. I looked at him through such an evil lens because I didn't like his character, that I was like, this dude, he has to know something's up. They asked him to be on this planet to spy on the insurgencies, the rebellion there on Gorman, and he didn't get some inkling that something weird was going on, something off. And I still feel that way. Like it, but at the same time, I think he was really in love with Dedra.
Oh, that
for what she was doing with him. I think he was obsessed with her. I think the first girlfriend kind of thing going on, where you put the love goggles on and whatever she asks of you, you're just going to do everything she says.
And not just that, she's also in the government, in the military. So that's like, even more.
And everything's going well in his life, right? He's getting all those promotions, and he's that first episode, he's like, look where you could be in a few years if you do what I do. You just dig in deep and do what you're told, and you know, you'll make your life happen. He's very much meant to be an ordinary character with an ordinary arc. And I think the purpose of that, which I'll touch on a little more in a bit, is what happens to him and where I think they're going to go with it next. So
I kind of wish we saw more of that. You know, we talk Star Wars, Star Trek, but there's another show that I love that's in that realm called Babylon 5. They had a story where the president of Earth was assassinated, kind of like a JFK thing, and then another president stepped in, and that guy was more of a tyrant. So he had his own cult following, and he had his own propaganda play to go about his policies and his administration, whatever. So what I liked about that show, you actually saw a character being introduced to that brainwashing propaganda, whatever you want to call it. We saw the process of him going to certain gatherings, rallies, getting certain news updates, talking to certain people, reading certain news articles, and that kind of showed how things are promoted, if you want to say. And that's an aspect I would have loved to see with Cyril. Like, what did he do in his spare time? How did we see how he was engaging in whatever the Empire was promoting or doing propaganda and such? Because we saw a little bit of that with Mothma's daughter, when she was with her friends and they were reciting stuff and pledges of allegiances for the Empire and stuff. Like, we need more of that. That'd be cool. And I would like to see more of that with Cyril, because he has the opportunity. We could see what it's like for people who do side with the Emperor's slogans, and what that process is like, what the Empire is giving people. But we don't do that. We see him with Cyril and his mom complaining to him. So again, that's another thing I feel Disney could have gone harder with, showing us this stuff, having this narrative of showing how the Empire does it. They almost did with the meeting where they showed a commercial and had a talk about it, but they didn't even go into the analysis of what they were going to plan to do this with the media, or have this Senate say this, or do this law of action and pass this bill or whatever. We don't see any of that, and that's where I feel the show drops the ball. It has the tone and narrative that it's there, but they don't show it. And that's the part where I feel Disney fails. And I think Cyril could have been such a stronger character, because then when the veil is taken from him in the massacre, that could even be powerful. And I have more criticism about that, but I think I've talked too long right now.
No,
ahead,
I completely agree, and that's why I call this Star Trek Light. You know, like if like the way they portrayed his character throughout season 1 and season 2, I'm not sure. I know for sure we didn't need to spend as much time as we did with him. They really just like it didn't go. It didn't deliver at the end as much as it should have, in my opinion, especially for wasting as much time as we did with him eating cereal with blue milk and everything like that. So it's like, you got the blue milk.
I'm doing my honorary drink for Surreal right now.
Of course you have the blue milk. Yeah, no, like it was just too light of, final impact on it. So it's like it could have been skipped, in my opinion. All those moments, I don't know if we necessarily needed if they weren't going to go as hard as they should have gone with him.
Because like propaganda is spread through art and stuff. Because Hitler knew that ahead of time, and that's why he invested a lot in the art schools and artists to do this story. I'm a bantha now, so it's like. He's not the first one to do that either. You know, you go further in the past and all that. So my suspicion, Disney, is that maybe Disney doesn't want to go that route, because Disney are the kings and queens in the marketing business. And they're like, are we exposing ourselves? Or what do we do if we go down that route? Cyril's having cereal today. Let's do that. All right, cool. Like,
right. Kind of hypocritical style of ways with Disney.
Yeah, and I do think it could have been handled a little better on the show. Thanks, Cover Girl.
A little better?
What's that? A little better? No, it could have been handled a lot better. But I think that's the part where I'm conflicted on, is I wonder if it was the point to show how ordinary he was. Did we need to spend 20 minutes, an episode watching him eat cereal? I don't think so.
No, no, we don't think so. We 100% know we don't need to be spending that much time if he's just going to be an ordinary character.
I think, honestly, the part where they should have focused a bit on is him individually as a character and what he's trying to get. To have him such a kind of, I mean, not such a weak character, but to have him just going like he's a robot in a sense that he's just going through an ordinary day life. He has no purpose. He really doesn't have a sense of order to his life, and that he just kind of hates his life.
But we see better robot stories all the time in Star Wars. R2-D2, C-3PO. So even the what's his face, the new robot, they has a better story arc. Yeah, SO has a better story arc going than Surreal.
Yeah, right.
He just showed up.
I see a $5 super chat from our boy Beyond the Night saying Kojay said it like a bantha. Cobra. And
hey, that's for you guys.
Like a bantha. Yes.
Like a bantha.
All right, thank you so much, Beyond the Night. Appreciate it, brother.
That's making me like that more.
Right? I mean, it makes me want to watch Book of Boba Fett again, even though that show didn't turn out so great. But
yeah,
I think there is a point to having him be such an ordinary character, to not have such a fantastical story arc, so that he is very relatable in the sense. I think in a weird way, maybe that's why his death feels flat in a way. When things do start to go right, when he does confront Dedra, and because he's realized the truth that she's used him, that the rumors are true, that they're stealing the minerals from this place, and I think the betrayal that he feels from not just her, but what she represents of the Empire, the betrayal of the law and order, and how his life, even though it was going well at that moment, was a lie. That she even says, like, you're going to be a hero from this. Like, you should just shut up and take it. You all this advancement, like, you can't. She's like, you can't tell me that you didn't enjoy this. That you weren't liking where your life was going. Like, well, this is what it took. And I think that was a big eye opener for him to kind of realize, oh my God, I'm part of the problem. The thing I cared about. It's like being a part of the company, like saying if you wanted to be, I don't know, to be a part of the movie industry, and then all of a sudden you work for the studios and you see all the crazy stuff that happens, and realizing that in some cases all that stuff is what's the problem with the world or the people, or like everything has its own complications and weirdness to it.
Dang, story of my life, bro.
Right, Light by Influence. I think the point is to make sure people understand he's a normal character, and to maybe even tempt people to identify him. Ooh, I eat cereals too sometimes. We all eat cereal, especially we all eat cereal with our moms. Just kidding now.
No, that is a good point. But how they spend time on it and then add to it. Like, imagine if he's eating cereal and then watching a speech and then interacting or whatever.
Yeah,
like add more to it. Not just.
I think that would have shown his. I think to show kind of where he's at personality wise, and his beliefs, his moral beliefs, and what the Empire is doing, being that the focus, the support of it. Because at the time, it really just seems like when he lost his ISB position with Ferrix, it really just seemed he was on a revenge tour with Cassian, rather than believer of the cause of law and order. And I think that's where it got maybe a little misconstrued, where they could have done better if that was more of the focus, is truly like what he's after, how he feels about the Empire. Like Blind Fool says, oh no, that rebellion I encourage is turning violent. Who could have predicted that? He sure knew what he was causing, but finding out it wasn't for the reasons he thought is what broke him. Exactly. And I think that's where it comes to, with that moment where he decides to leave her, and realizing in a way that this life he's living is a lie, and it's not what he got everything he wanted, and it happened to be the worst thing ever for him, which I think that's a huge part of his character too. So this is the moment where the Empire, they see the opportunity, the crowd is starting to get a little bit rambunctious, and they decide to seize it with shooting down an Imperial officer, so that way people think it's on them. It's creating that media, fake news media, that is going to lead to this moment with the Empire taking over and just wiping out all the insurgents on Gorman in the plaza. And in the chaos, this is some of the issue I also had with this episode, where we've never really seen Cassian hesitate in a situation, especially with someone like Dedra, who he knows has been hunting them, who has caused him problems, and it's the reason why he's there. To me, this seemed a little bit of like plot shielding, where like, oh, Cassian, for some reason, he's had 3 clear shots now and he can't take it. He can't take the shot. Like, granted, I know he in that moment probably believed he only had 1 shot, 1 opportunity, and he had to get it perfect. But we've seen Cassian, he's a pretty good shot in the first place, and he's not afraid to take it quick. Like, he realizes,
he shoots first.
Yeah, he shoots. Yeah, he very much is the Han Solo that shoots first, right? He like doesn't think about it, and he knows that if you do think about it, that's when shit goes wrong. Like, you just got to do it. So it was very uncharacter-like for him to watch this entire thing go down, where he has 3 clear shots, and yes, I know they weren't long. He had one where he was taking a deep breath, trying to make sure he had stabilized his shot, but even then, it was like he didn't take it. And it kind of drove me nuts a little bit with Cassian. Corey,
because if he took it, that would actually give Cyril more reason to fight him. Because after Cyril had his revelation, I don't really understand why Cyril would fight Cassian all over again.
I get the sense that Cassian, he's in this moment where, like, he, in a way, he doesn't know who he is, right? He's lost everything in his mind, right? Like, the women he loves used him. The empire he loves, the law and order he cared about, is turning into this chaos around him. I think he's so confused that the moment he sees Cassian, the person that he's been hunting all of season 1, I think he kind of goes, like, his brain like kind of reboots, and that's the first file that pops up on his server, and it's like, I'm gonna get this dude. I'm so pissed off right now. And I think that's what's in a way, this is where I say, like, while season 2 of Andor I feel like hasn't been as executed as well as season 1, there's still these moments of brilliance, because the moment when Cassian looks at him, Surreal has the gun, he's gonna get him finally, and Cassian says the one thing that could shut him down, Martha. I'm just kidding. He says, who are you? Like, who the hell are you? This dude that has been living rent-free in Surreal's mind has been the thing he is hunting, and all he is to this person is a stranger. And it's that moment that just kind of breaks him even further. Like, oh my God, like, he could have not had a worse day. Just everything did not go well for him. And I think it's a bit of a powerful moment that when he does is shot by Rylands, it is kind of that, I don't think you are supposed to feel anything. I think he's just a casualty. And I think
you weren't supposed to say my name, you're supposed to say I have friends everywhere, idiot.
I do think that it's a huge moment when Cassian is just kind of like, who the hell are you, dude? It's the Thanos moment. Like, I don't even know what I've done to you. You're your own victim. And I think that is a big thing too, right? Like, he very much was his own victim. He allowed to be manipulated by the Empire, by Dedra, to be used in such a way that he was a pawn, and he did everything they asked of him. And the one thing that he was trying to get after, the thing that he believed on Ferrix that took away his ability for law and order and sustainability that the Empire was providing, the blanket of security, the false security, I should say. And here's the object of that thing that took it away from him, and he means nothing to that person, and yet Cassie means everything to him. And I think, in a way, that's kind of like it's like a very gut-wrenching thing. I still didn't like tear up about it like some people are on social media, but I think it was an interesting to say about the Empire, and I'll go into my last little piece about it. And here's my last little piece about when all the news comes out about Gorman, they don't call it a massacre, they call it I think they call it the Gorman attack, right? Because the Empire is free of any issues with of any consequences that or blame that goes on it. And his mom watches the thing. She was the one that was kind of pushing for it. She's like, you need to get out of there because Gorman is such a bad place. There's insurgencies there, and you just need to find a better job. And now she knows her son's dead. So she is very much a believer of the propaganda that the Empire spit out that Surreal believed. And I think how he could be used in a weird way. And I think this was the point, to see the ordinary life, to see what his ending outcome of his beliefs were, of what happened to him. She could very well use him. Or I should say the Empire could use him, use his death. They don't know the truth that at the end he was like, screw the Empire, like, I can't believe you guys used me. But they could use, look at this young man, he had everything going for him. His life, he was promoted, he started from nothing, and now he was a manager of the ISB and doing all these wonderful things. And he was one of the Imperial officers that was attacked during this heinous crimes of the insurgency on Gorman. and having his mom on the television saying like, I loved my son, I cared for him, and those Gorman people took him away from me. You start to see all of a sudden, when you hear that, the story of the mom, the victims of that, it gives the Empire even more of this news that they could push out, this propaganda, this story they could use as their scapegoat. And the truth is, it's a lie. And I think that right there is the brilliance of Andor, is of what Tony Gilroy is trying to say, is that his character, so ordinary, could be any of us in the real world, right? Eating cereal with mom, maybe some parenthood issues, things like that, being controlled, just going about his day, loving, the advancement in his career. And all of a sudden he realizes that he was on the wrong side. And in his final moments, he dies because of the Empire, the thing he was fighting for. And it's all a lie. But they're going to use him now to be this poster boy for the Empire, to say, those Gorman insurgents, those rebellions killed a good kid. They killed a good kid who did nothing but, believe in law and order. He believed in the Empire, and this is what happens to him. All of a sudden you start to see the story that could arise from that, and the anger that can generate within the Empire and its people, to where it manipulates. It's the perfect manipulation of all time. His Surreal's manipulation goes far beyond even himself at this moment. Now he's going to be a poster boy, and I hope they address that in the next 3. What's your thoughts now that I bring that case to you about Surreal's journey?
No, that's definitely his fate and what they do with them, because in his death, they do not just kill him, but they take his voice away. And then they replace it with what they need. So then they sympathize with this one death, and then don't even care about all of the Gormans, And that kind of turns the tragedy into a lie, but also a false mascot for what the Empire needs to do to label the Gormans as, the problem. So you don't feel anything for them. So you don't question when the Empire says, all right, going forward, this group of people, this alien group or whatever, they're bad. Okay, Empire says they're bad, they're right, so we don't care if they get killed. It turns them into rats or pests, because you're like, oh, they're pests, they're annoying, they're bad. It doesn't matter how many of them you kill. It's fine. Just get rid of them, So having someone as a mascot, a tragic mascot, will definitely help with the Empire's propaganda too, because now they got more blood in the ink that they write all their policies and going forward, and that's one thing that they need. So yeah. Corey,
what's your thoughts?
Nope, still don't like it, Trey, and I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna deliver here. But I do appreciate how you broke it down and everything like that. First off, I'm going to say this scene definitely pissed me off big time. It was super annoying. Andor, in my opinion, would have 100% have taken that shot. He should have taken that shot. It should have been over with Deidre. But when you bring up this picture, Trey, I understand why he didn't take the shot now. Maybe even more so because he would have become a pirate. Yo ho, the pirate's life for me. The way he's holding this gun right now, bro, he would have scoped himself in the eye and been wearing an eye patch for the rest of his life. I'm saying it, like he would have smashed his eye. And yes, Star Wars guns do have recoil, So
according to Battlefront, they do.
And Fortnite.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he would have, boom, his eye would have been gone. He would have been a pirate, and he would have been known as Cassian the Pirate from here on out. But honestly, bro, I see what you're saying here. I think how it should have played out. I think Surreal should have seen Andor in this scenario, but right after Andor took the shot. and killed Deidre, in my opinion.
That's what I'm saying.
That would have been more impactful, because now we have this Romeo and Juliet style love story that they could have played on. In some ways, the two lovers or non-lovers died in this battle and everything like that on Gorman. This rise of the resistance side of things. I think that then we could have seen a whole new level of craziness come out, because not only did Andor have no clue who the hell Surreal was, but then Surreal would have been also going through all the emotions of like, oh, I just had a fight with her, but he just killed her. There's definitely no reconciliation there. Just to see him go like absolutely like berserk mode, and that like just mental trauma, craziness would have gone just fine. But here's the thing why I still think that Surreal Karn's death doesn't matter, because this was episode 8. This was episode 8, Trey.
Yeah.
That this took place. Episode 9 should have put in the difference between Mothra and the news that the Empire was doing. Like, hey, Surreal Karn was a good man. He was a martyr. He was killed on this planet. They could have easily included Deidre as well. Deidre, his wife, was also there and was killed on this planet. This is what they're doing. This is the rise against the Empire. This is the issue that we're dealing with. So they could have started using it then. And then on top of that, they could have easily have used his mother one last time to show that she's the one who's like, this is why we need to full on support the Empire and everything like that. And which would have been a great episode, because it would have immediately contradicted what Mothma was saying. So it would have been this back and forth of them both giving the speeches, of the speech for the Empire and the speech for the Resistance. And I think that would have contrasted better in that episode 9. I just think, like, because here's the thing, Trey, you bring up great points, and your story arc would be so much better, but Disney's not going to deliver. And guess what? In 10, 11, 12, we're about to jump forward a year. So are we going to be like, it's been 1 year later since Surreal and the Gorman massacre, how people stop to, really care after so long. So it's like, I think it would have been more impactful to show those media and how the Empire was spinning the story right from the get-go, not some 1 year later of episodes guess what, we're remembering it now. So it doesn't impact it as hard as what it could have been in episode 9. So I personally don't think it's going to work, Trey. And I also think that I don't really know what Deidre's purpose is anymore. I know she's still trying to find Luthen and everything like that, but like her story portion has gone, definitely flat now. So there was no need for her to make it pass. I'd be curious if Andor does find a way to make it happen, but if she doesn't have something big, and I'd be really surprised if we see the mom after this. I think we saw the last shot of his mother, but I don't see any, unless something big happens with Deidre. I don't think they can redeem her story either as well. They should have killed them both in episode 8 at this Gorman massacre. The Empire tries to use it for their propaganda, and then in episode 9, and Mothma uses it for their propaganda. So it's this propaganda war in episode 9 is what should have been. And then 10, 11, 12 closes us out. That's how I think it should have worked. But Orc and Beans also has some thoughts on Surreal Karn as well.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm. Are we ready for that?
Go ahead. Show us what. So anyone who hasn't seen our friend co-host on the Delta Squad streams here, his least favorite character is Surreal. to the point where he couldn't even watch Serial anymore. So he quit Andor at the start of the season 2. So I'm curious to see what he has to say here. Go ahead and play it too, bro.
All right, here we go.
I told you all. He sucked. He was useless. Went out. Some blue milk for the terrible character that he was. I told you. I told you all. Sacked.
It's like he's a part of the Delta Squad stream here.
Or went out. Some blue milk for the terrible character
Pour
that he
some
was.
blue milk out, Trey. You better pour some blue milk out for. Yep.
Here's
pour
for
some
my
out.
homies.
Yes. Pour some blue milk out. There we go.
There you go.
No. No. That cracked me up when
Orc, we hope you're well, man. Thank you for gracing us.
And shout out to Rachel as well. She just graduated college with a master's degree now. So she went back for master's school, all that and such. So congratulations to her as well. So pretty awesome. But I had to when his boy Surreal died, we had to get something from Oregon.
Yeah.
Beans, that's for sure.
Oh man, that's so funny. I mean, I think it's fair. It's fair to have all these different mixed feelings on his character in particular because it wasn't glamorous. It wasn't a grand story. It wasn't meant to have, or maybe it wasn't. I can't speak for Tony Gilroy, but I get the sense that it wasn't meant to have this grand epic journey, and it was really just to show you here is a character that was so ordinary, it could be anybody, and this is how you were used to further the power of and the control of the Empire, of how such a small figure was so important and he didn't even realize it, in a way. It's an interesting discussion. Trevor H with a $5 super chat saying that was a brilliant breakdown. TBC, I never saw it that way. Well, and that's what I was kind of hoping for. Is like I just, like I say, if you watch the reaction in the watch party, I disliked it at first, and I'm still conflicted, and that's where I was like, I think that's the point. I think I'm supposed to be conflicted. I think I'm not supposed to be like, well, his character really didn't serve a purpose. Like his story was just trash. Like he just pretty much died. He sat around, ate cereal. He failed at a couple of things, and his mom was mean to him. And Dedra, owned his ass. Like he was nothing. And I think, but yeah, he's going to be used in a way that furthers the plot a little bit for the Empire. And I think that's an interesting discussion because I think we can turn on the TV and be like, yep, that's going on right now.
But here's the thing, Trey. What do you need to see? Like, because I already think that the moment's passed to really give Surreal Karn his roses, as the kids would call it nowadays, the flowers. The
riz.
Like how do we honor Surreal's character? Like, you said you needed to see Dedra or somebody talk about Surreal's.
I think we need to see his mom. I think she needs to be used for the propaganda. I think that would help solidify. I agree with you. The opportunity for that was in episode 9. That could have been a quick little thing to have her on one of the news stations saying like, "Oh, look at my child was murdered by these, inhumane people, and that they're disgusting." All that stuff to further the Empire's control and the anger, the backlash that is going to happen from this.
But here's the thing, Trey. We're jumping a year now, so like
that's the crazy part. Yeah,
like we're jumping a year.
Like
so like I feel like the time has passed. The time came. The time has come in episode 9. If they are still talking too much about that side of stuff in 10, 11, 12, I'm going to be bummed out a little bit because we need to be ramping up big time getting into
Mhm.
Rogue One. So we don't have very many episodes left. So I think the time has been already missed.
Yeah.
With your theory, because it's a great concept and it's a great idea, Trey. I just don't think Disney is going to deliver it to us.
I think it's there. They're just not going to deliver it on purpose.
Mm.
Because even with the protest side, because I've gone to a lot of protests for like 18 years of my life. There's even how those go down is really different, because I make sure I stick to the peaceful protests. I don't want to do anything that's against my values and what I believe in. But like I protest with Jewish Voice for Peace, for example. They have a system where it's a show up and voice. So some of the protesters will actually have a speech, or they'll have a display or sing songs or have a specific chant. And I feel that all of that system of vocalizing what the people see as a problem that's affecting them was completely lost. Like how they shot it was kind of like background noise, and that kind of bothered me. I was like, all right, which protester here is going to have a deep speech about this or bring on someone who was affected by the empire, get that narrative? They didn't go that route. So if they don't go that route, I feel like they won't even go the route that you suggested too. Yeah. And that would be the really serious deep dive that we're talking about is needed, that I feel Disney purposely avoids.
Exactly.
I think the issue, and here's where I say the focus is incorrect, where
well said.
They kind of do address it, right? In episode 9, which is called Welcome to the Rebellion, obviously from what Cassian says to Mon Mothma when he's extracting her. But the whole beginning of the episode is all the Senate hearings that are happening about the Gorman attack, right? It's not what we know it as the Gorman massacre because the rebellion wins. It's about the Gorman attack. You're seeing all the senators saying like this, it missed this house, it missed that house, and the Gormans came after my people who were on that planet during this event. We need action and we need more power to the Empire.
Exactly, and that's where Surreal should have came up then. You better believe the politicians would have said, "Oh yeah, look at this young boy, Surreal."
And I think at that moment,
and his mother is in the
in the Senate room. People stand and applaud for her. Waving the roses, right? That would have been the opportunity without question, Super Bro. But maybe it'll be used in a way as in, well, it's been a 1 year later, and we're honoring the memorial of the Gorman attack. It could be something like that. If they wanted to find a way to bring it back in, I do think it'd be a huge loss, even though with a year later, if it wasn't addressed somehow to really amplify how even after death, Surreal is a pawn in the Empire's game. But episode 9 also gives us some really great stuff. Before we get to continue on with episode 9, let's give Trevor H a little something to say thank you for that $5 super chat. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
The time has come. Execute Order 66.
The time has come and passed for Surreal, Trey. I don't think he can get any more from him.
I will say episode 9 I think is a great episode, even still without some of those things that we wish would have happened. But episode 9 is great because we do get to see a little more of that political side. We see Senator Orrin, who is the representative of Gorman. He's being taken out. He's being removed from the premise because he can no longer have a voice there. And Mon Mothma, she's fired up. She's like, we need to stand up and talk about this, Bail. And Bail Organa, we know his reservations. This is the cool part where Bail has been by her side all this time, has supported her, and we know how much he, would support this concept of freedom and anything of, against tyranny like the Empire is, as we've seen throughout episode Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, all of these events have led up, but he can't help her. He can't put a target on his back at that time because we know the truth of it. He's having to hide Leia. And in a way, I think what's so beautiful about that, and the way that I'm totally spacing the actor's name who took over for Smits. Do you remember Koj, who's playing Bail Organa?
Brad Pitt. No, Benjamin Bratt.
Benjamin Bratt. Brad Pitt. No, Benjamin Bratt. I think what's great.
I missed my
that-
breakfast this morning. Benjamin Bratt.
I think the way he plays it is that's like the sacrifice he's making. He knows what the right thing to do is in that moment. He knows he has to stand up against the Empire. But the sacrifice is he made a promise to Obi-Wan, to Yoda, and to Padme that he would defend and protect Leia to all costs, right? And it's not quite the right time yet. She's a young, well, actually by that time she's a teenager, so she's getting close to being able to fight back and be able to take up the reins of the rebellion a little bit, as we see in Rogue One. But I think that was a very beautiful thing to kind of let Bail Organa, and that's where I think Batdan, who commented earlier, that said, you know, Bail Organa, if they had to recast him, he shouldn't have been in this show at all. If they had to recast him, you know, to keep continuity. Here's the moment where I say, well, this was important. I think it is important to have Bail Organa there. You know,
he needs to be there.
Stand by Mon Mothma, because he is such a huge part of the rebellion, and to ask the question of where was he when she delivers that speech? Why wasn't he more involved? Well, deep down, we know the truth of it, but his reaction to her request and her confusion of why he can't do it and why she kind of presses him on it, and you know he can't tell her, but it also starts to create the paranoia that she starts to have of she can't trust anyone. Luthen is telling her that they're going to have to extract her after this speech that she gives, and she can't trust Bail's people because Bail's people are working for the Empire. But the truth is, Bail is also just, you know, while Bail is secret, it's not because he's corrupt and that he's working for the Empire. It's because he's trying to protect someone. You know, it's all these things that even Luthen doesn't know about, even though he's so resourceful. And Light Blind and Fool says, I think that once there that said a citizen of Coruscant was killed was talking about Sorrel. It's possible that they could have. And I think that's the important part of, we see how our politics work. And when anyone dies, you know, or is going to be used to kind of push forward a cause, they always try to humanize their speeches by naming those people. And I think if it was surreal, it would have been a good idea to have said his name, you know. And I think it is,
and have his mom there, especially since we all knew.
Yeah, I agree.
Because they're very specific, like you said, because sometimes if someone's death doesn't go against the political thing, they just pretend that death never even happened. That's happened to many Americans overseas, and even soldiers overseas that have been killed.
Yeah,
that
I mean, and for them to even create like
something.
Yeah, I mean, to create a surreal Karn fund, you know, to have something like that. And that's where I say maybe you will see, if they do like a anniversary event.
1 year later, he's on the boxes of surreal cereal and blue milk.
This was his favorite cereal. Every dollar we get goes to buying tanks for the Empire. I mean, maybe it's certainly possible, right? I don't know. I do think it's while maybe the initial impact is gone, I don't think it would still be a smart idea to use him further as a pawn. I don't think they should get rid of it. But of course, Cassian at this moment, he's kind of lost his spirit for the rebellion, right? He wants to leave it. He's done all that he can. He's been put through the shit enough times that he's ready to have peace. And Luthen's kind of like, no, dude, we're in this. Like, I need you now for this last mission. You're gonna have to you're gonna have to rescue and extract Mon Mothma, who's going to be the face of the rebellion. Like, this is going to be one of the biggest missions of all time for the rebellion. So Cassian is still in it at least one more time. We hear all the Senate Gorman massacre, Gorman attack hearings, and finally, and this was one of my favorite parts of this. When I rewatched the episode, I didn't quite catch on to this, but technically Bail Organa is the one that gets a speech. They didn't want anyone to know that he says in his speech that there's a strict agenda, meaning that the Empire, controlling who's speaking, who gets a voice, is trying to ensure that the people who are speaking are going to fit their narrative of what's going on. He's going to push the imperial propaganda rhetoric. So when Senator Bail Organa says that, and he says I'm going to invoke Article A 17252. And he makes it a point to take the knife and stick it in and just twist it a little bit on the Emperor as kind of a hintful nod that basically is telling the Emperor to go screw himself. But it's
within the rules.
It's within the rules enough that they might not be able to catch on to it. It's subtle enough. But he says, proposed by the Emperor's Council, that article, which gives a senior senator, in a case of emergency, may yield the floor freely to another senator without interruption. So basically saying the senator gave us this power to, the chancellor gave us this power to, have an emergency speech, and I'm going to randomly choose Mon Mothma. So that way it wasn't on the schedule. We know she's being watched. We know she's being heavily guarded, all those things, right? The Empire's getting ready to make their move and assassinate her potentially. But now they threw off the schedule. So that it gives it this time of this great timing of where they could maybe throw off the Empire just enough to where they could get her out. And she gives a speech that she does where she says, the monster that is going to come for us all is Emperor Palpatine. And that's the moment that ignites the rebellion, right? It's not quite the declaration of the Rebel Alliance, but it is the one that kind of gives the Ferric speech from Andor's adopted mother, where basically she says, "Screw the Empire." It's that moment for Mon Mothma, and now that she's, they're trying to shut her down her speech, and also take her out. This is where Cassian has to jump in, and we start to see the Cassian that we know, which is the quick to shoot. He's brutal, he's cold. He wouldn't have taken that long to shoot Dedra, because he pops off that one girl with the ISB agent, and then he shoots her driver, and you see, and I love this moment because Mon Mothma, she's being thrown into this. I don't think she quite realized how this was going to go down. I think in her brain she said this isn't going to go well, but I don't think her mind said guns and blasters and people were going to die on the spot in front of her. She was truly shocked, and just tells you how protected she was and how Luthen kept her far away from this entire situation. But he's able to get her back. And we do get the little Easter egg where one of the rebel officers on Yavin says that she's going to be picked up by Gold Squadron, which is a direct relation to that Star Wars Rebels animated show, season 3, episode 18, Secret Cargo. So that was cool that they did keep the little Easter egg there, even though her speech that she gave, if you do watch that episode of Rebels, it doesn't quite match what she says or in some of the Star Wars Legends books. Take that if you want to be like, oh dude, that's retconning. I've just learned long ago that animated stuff, comics tend to not, and speaking of comics, technically how K2SO meets Andor is not how it went down in the comics versus how it goes in the show, technically in the comics he meets Cassian, finds him on a mission. I think it was if I recall from the Marvel comic, it was Wikiko, and he ambushed the droid and repaired him right there. So it wasn't a long ordeal. It was a quick he jumps him, changes his programming, and uses K2SO to get out of that planet, with his help. So it was a bit different. And once again, you're all right, well, that's Disney Star Wars. Should that be retconning?
No, I don't think it's retconning. I think it's just natural, too much quantity. Because when they have time to tie in all these things to be on the same page, like back in the day when we had Dark Horse comics. No, let's go now. Like with Rebel Moon, for example. The comics are super, super canon to the movie. Same with the games and all that with Rebel Moon so far, with the first game coming out. So I don't think they retcon. I just think they don't have time to sync them up perfectly. But they're still trying to honor it. They just have such a crazy schedule, putting so much content out at such a rate.
Yeah, no, I
think
agree.
That's just the case of it. They're trying, but because they have they're pushing out so much, some things get lost on the conveyor belt. I don't think it's any kind of alternate universe. I think it's
Yeah.
just they're trying, but it's sloppy with their schedule.
Right. At the end of the episode, basically, as Cassian kind of pushes forward that he wants a life away from the rebellion. He's ready for peace. He wants his life with Bix, and Bix leaves him because she doesn't want him to give up his fight for her. But promises that they will get back together when it is all over. Now we know deep down of where his life ends, so it's a bit of a tragic thing. If she still makes it, I do hope they address where she is in the next 3 episodes. I feel like that'll be a huge loss if she's not somehow involved in the final 3 episodes. But I think all in all, episode 9 was definitely a very strong episode, all things considering.
Yes.
And I think we'll ponder for a while. It's one of those things where we're going to have to wait for the next 3 episodes to see how they handle the Gorman massacre. What comes from that? How do we build up to that final moment? And really, is it going to feel like a series finale? A series finale is usually a big moment. It's resolute. But here we know where Cassian starts at Rogue One. So is it going to feel like it kind of is it? I don't think it's going to be a dovetail, where it ends a story. I think it's going to feel like, well, we're now here, and I think we need to prepare ourselves for that, because it is Andor in a way is a filler series to lead us up to Rogue One. But I think there's a lot of questions that we need answered. Before I go into those questions that we need answered, Koj, what do you think is going to happen in the final 3 episodes, or what are you hoping to see?
What I'm hoping to see is a movie, Rogue One Part 1, and making the movie feel like Rogue One Part 2. They have to do that. They have to put the pedal to the metal, because I think skipping a year is sloppy because they can avoid answering those deep questions that we want. Because my theory is that Disney is avoiding going deeper, going harder for whatever reasons, and it kills the momentum of what's going on. Because after seeing this, I feel episode 7, 8, and 9 should have been episode 1, 2, and 3, and not do the year thing and have the whole episode be the year leading up to Rogue One. So, like I said on our watch party, each episode roughly around 50 minutes. 3 of those is a solid long length movie, maybe Man of Steel length, I don't know. So that's plenty of time, movie length time, to give you a Rogue One rich, exciting, and also suspense building story. If you shoot it like a film, just display it in 3 parts, to where like, oh my gosh, your heart is racing. It's like, what happens next? Rogue One, ladies and gentlemen. And then boom. They need to do that. If they do this same 1, 2, 3 arc that they've been doing, it's not going to hit as well. It is not going to hit as well. It'll look pretty. Performance might be great, but it needs to up the stakes big time right now, because that's something that season 1 was building at a nice rate. I think slow, artsy, beautifully, and all that. But I feel like season 2 has gone up, then down, up, then down, up, then down. Why? The down is the year. Why? Because the year robs us of any more story filling and building up parts, and it gives Disney leeway to avoid focusing on the details, the deep dives that we're talking about. So then they're like, oh, we don't have to go there because we don't have enough time now. We have to cover all these years. I think given that system gives them an excuse to not go deep when they could. Then they could play it safe. Then Andor could be a little soft or light, as we say, when it could be even harder. Like this show could have been like double slapping like Last of Us, Game of Thrones, anything that's gone super, super deep in times, So these last 3 episodes must feel like a movie, Rogue One Part 1. That's what I'm saying. Because it's
No, I definitely hear what you're saying. I don't know, like the first 3 episodes, in my opinion, didn't feel so super important. Like there was a lot of filler in those first 3 episodes. Like, we maybe could have skipped that. It really seems like a lot of the build, other than I think clearly they were trying to show how the Empire was handling the Gorman situation. I almost wish they would have gone further into it rather than spend other time with other characters.
Yeah.
Super Bro, your thoughts on what you hope to see in the final 3 episodes, or what you like, what needs to be done?
Yeah, so this next episode or next 3 episodes is going to be before 1 BBY, right?
Yes, it should be. It should be a year before the battle, before Yavin. So, and leading us up right to Rogue One.
Yeah. It definitely needs to be a preemptive movie gearing us up for Rogue One. It should be something that we kind of, maybe a fluid transition right into Rogue One is something that we've said. There's a lot of characters out there that we should be seeing, right? We should be, Mothma's play and everything. Luthen needs to have a solid story as well. I want to ask, Bail Organa.
Yeah.
Because obviously he's getting things ready as well. I don't know if we've used Bail Organa as well as we possibly could. So maybe, hopefully, we see a little bit more from Bail Organa in the next 3 episodes. But then again, I'm not entirely sure, because don't get me wrong, I appreciate that Benjamin Bratt guy, but I still think that the recasting of Bail Organa was stupid. I get there was some conflict of schedules or whatever, but not casting the right Bail Organa, I think, is a huge miss, and probably lazy on Disney's part. The way we've used Bail Organa so far in Andor season 2, I feel like we probably could have had the real Bail Organa just be a digital screen capture of him. No, I'm not talking AI. I'm talking about like real Bail Organa, but like he doesn't need to be in person with Mon Mothma. It's like you know how they do like the.
I mean that's a
It's the blue thing that comes up. I feel like it probably could have been just the same impact if it was the true Bail Organa. As the blue impact, and they could have filmed that super easily on his time schedule without having to bring him into the studio. So I do think Disney missed on the Bail Organa, even though I do appreciate Benjamin Bratt and his attempt to try to do it. But in some ways, I do wonder what's going to happen with Bail Organa, and I try to think about the other stuff that's going on in the Rebel side of things. You have Princess Leia, getting a little bit more active around this time as well, right? Like she's going against Bail's wishes to join the rebellion. So I think if they want to be true to the Andor show, though, and the reason why it's called Andor, we better have a lot of Cassian, and it better really gear up before his mission in Rogue One. I think that I think that's where we could go now. I think eventually we could bring back the real Bail and have a Bail series as well, because I know this is the last Andor. We're not going to get any more Andor after this, but I feel like if Disney does want to continue the Star Trek-y side of things in live action, then we could have, I think you mentioned it last week, Trey, a Mon Mothma show. We could have a Bail Organa show, and maybe even a Leia more, because you watched Rebels, I didn't. Leia was only in Rebels a little bit, right, Trey?
Yeah, a tiny bit. but still, Rebels is a great show. I mean, honestly, I think the next thing Star Wars needs to do is a Darth Vader series, but
Sure.
that's just my thoughts. I think Andor was
They
a
could.
great.
And Hayden's been coming back.
Right? Yeah. But yeah, so it'll be interesting. I think one of the things we do need answered, like you guys brought up, is we did get. Hopefully they do address the Bix situation. I think we need to know exactly what happens with Luthen, because if Luthen is still out there somewhere, I think that's going to raise a lot of questions. I see a grim ending for Luthen, unfortunately, even for as great of a character as he's been. I do agree. I read someone said that they felt like Luthen took a back seat
He did.
This season, and I agree with that. I think Luthen should have been as big of a character as he was in season 1, and I felt like season 2 he's been less involved.
Bro, think about that. They gave Surreal Karn more screen time than Luthen has had.
Is that true? I don't know. Someone would have to do
That's
the
what
math
it feels
on that.
like.
It feels like
it does feel that way. But maybe that's setting it up for all. I do feel like these next 3 episodes should be heavy Luthen and Andor. Their relationship should be pretty extreme, because at least at this point, we haven't quite seen Cassian be Cassian feels the weight of things. Cassian feels the weight of sacrificing people, which is what has set him and Luthen at odds. Right? Where he said Luthen would almost be the easier villain to fight over the Empire. There needs to be something that happens that makes Cassian the guy who is okay of killing an innocent person to be Luthen, essentially. Luthen's not afraid that if you become a liability, you're out, you're done. He tells Cassian, like, hey, if Bix doesn't get her crap together, you're going to have to take her out because she's a liability. Or I'll do it. And we need to see what happens with their relationship that makes Cassian say Luthen had it right, in a way. So I'll be curious to see what their relationship is these next 3 episodes. But sorry, go ahead.
Do you guys get the vibe that there's too many open storylines right now that they're not going to be able to solve in 120 minutes or so, approximately, left of Andor season 2?
Absolutely.
I think
because of these year gaps.
Yeah, because the one that I was going to mention that it's never been addressed since the first 3 episodes of season 1, Andor's sister. That was such a big thing in the first 3 episodes. He was searching for his sister. We have no idea if she's alive, if she's dead, why that was even a thing, or clearly he's not. His life has been busy, so I don't blame him for not searching for her, but it just seems like that was something they brought up that felt important that was never addressed again. So I'll be curious about that. I do think Dedra needs to be addressed in some way, because and I feel like maybe she's Luthen's downfall. She's been the one that's been hell-bent on finding Axis. So I do feel their end is coming soon. And what about Andy Serkis's character?
He's dead.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to know what happened to Andy Serkis's character. I mean, he got freed. He didn't really.
Well, they killed the prisoners when they killed certain sections of that jail cell. I remember.
Yeah,
and he couldn't swim, and after a jailbreak, everyone who attempted to escape.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible he could have drowned, which would have been a horrible ending. But
or he didn't jump, and then when the Empire got there, reclaimed it, they probably assassinated him or executed him.
Maybe, yeah.
So one or the other.
We'll see. There are some questions that are left open that I hope they don't forget about. I think there will be some, but if there is, we'll talk about it in our breakdown next Saturday.
This is going to be Disney, though. This is what how Disney is going to play it out.
I have failed you, Anakin. I have failed you.
I don't know, Corey. Maybe they won't. Season 1 didn't
You
fail.
watched
Season
me
1 was
drop
great.
this a lot on Tuesday.
I have failed you, Anakin. I have failed you.
Hurtful. Koj, as we start to wrap up, good sir, what do you have coming up on your channel, my man?
Just the usual stuff. Well, actually, not a lot because I'm busy editing a lot of projects right now. But my art streams, my podcast, gameplays, story mode gameplays, and Super Sentai is coming up real soon. I say that a lot, but well, this weekend I have to do a lot of graphics for it. But yeah, check out for the Super Sentai series. That's gonna be fun. Me, Trey, and Corey, we're watching this, experiencing it for the first time, and you guys get to watch with us too. It's a weekly series. It's gonna be fun. I love it, and I'm excited for the next season when we get around to it. You guys, it's always fun experiencing something for the first time, especially with something we love, and I feel our audience really enjoys that. So you can look forward to that consistently, weekly. It's just a matter of time when I get it ready to go and I can give you an actual date. But yeah, fun stuff out there every now and then, so like and subscribe so you don't miss. But yeah, I'm still doing the thing, and I look forward to seeing you there. Thanks for supporting me.
Subscribe to our boy Koj. If you don't, we will find you. This is the channel you're looking for. Thank you so much, Koj. Seriously, guys, I'm so excited for the Super Sentai. You're not gonna want to miss that. That was. I've been like wanting to rewatch some Super Sentai, so maybe I'll just rewatch it again and enjoy our reactions.
I rewatched the 20 year after.
Yeah.
I
So
think that
definitely
is
check
one
it.
thing that I do enjoy about these Delta Squad breakdowns, though, for sure, Trey, is that like we all have different takes. You have super interesting, in-depth looks about, you know, how you feel about characters, and nobody here is really a, you know, like all in on what, you know, Disney Star Wars is or what they're trying to do. So I love how we each have our, you know, own opinions. We praise what's good and we rock what's bad. So it's always a fun conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys hearing my abstract thoughts on it, and I think it was. I think the fact that it's still like a conflicting thing, that's where I get at. Like, I think if anything, whether it worked out the way they wanted to or whether it was handled the way it needed to be, I think the thing that they were hoping for the most was that it made you think, you know. And I know some people don't care for that type of storytelling. Some, and that's fine. Some general audience people just want it like clear cut, like this is what you get. You know, no thinking. It's entertainment. But I don't think Andor was ever meant for that. I think Andor was meant to kind of make you look back on society, or maybe look at it through that person's shoes and see if you get the same answers, which makes Surreal an interesting character, but I don't know if they landed that. I think that'll be a question that the audience will have to ask if Surreal's character landed for you. But we have some really cool stuff coming up on the Bat Channel. I will have some Monsterverse content coming out soon because some big news with the new Godzilla X Kong film. We have a new film title and some hints about what's to come in the Monsterverse, and some cool stuff coming with Godzilla -1, the sequel, and some other things with that. So be on the lookout for that this weekend. And also Tuesday, we will have, ladies and gentlemen, our season finale watch party at 8:45 p.m. Eastern, 15 minutes right before the show premieres, that you can actually watch it. Obviously, we can't show it here at Disney Plus, would take us down faster than we can say these aren't the droids you're looking for. And then to complete the Andor story, we will have Rogue One, a Star Wars story, same time the next day, so that way we can see Cassian's full journey right up to the end, to really decide what his character arc was like. And then Saturday we will do our breakdown. I don't know if I'll have time now that I have a new baby girl to rewatch the entire season of Andor and maybe the entire series of Andor to see how I feel about it, but we'll certainly rewatch it and kind of think about how the entire arc was, how the two seasons were. I think that'll be a question on a lot of our minds for sure. But guys, It helps us out, as always, when you smash that like, you share this stream, you subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a comment. A replay crew, leave a comment all the throughout. I love reading your guys' takes, your guys' theories, whether you loved it, whether you hated it. I want to hear your guys' opinion on Star Wars Andor episodes 7 through 9 and where you think they're going for the finale. Can't wait to hear you guys' thoughts. And I'm your host, Trey, with our boy Koj and Super Bro Corey. And don't forget to tune in weekly.
Same bat time.
Same bat channel. See you later, guys. Have a wonderful night.
See ya.